No, I'm sorry, I didn't respond to your quorum questions.
Okay, as long as we had 30 respond, we were good to go.
Sorry about that.
Okay.
For being on break, I'm not getting a break at all this year.
No. Yeah, they lied about that.
That was false advertising.
It's not really a break.
Rhonda, are we ready at 10?
We do have all board members.
All right, Chair Williams, it's all you.
Great. Good morning, everybody. And welcome to our board meeting on August 16th, 2023. Like to call our meeting to order. But before we get rolling, just want to remind everybody that the board of directors may vote to hold an executive session for the purpose of obtaining legal advice from Mountain Lions attorney on any matter listed on the agenda pursuant to Arizona Revised Statute. Executive sessions may be held at any time during a meeting. And executive sessions are not open to the public pursuant to Arizona open meeting laws. At a later point in our meeting, we'll have opportunity for public comment. And we'll talk about that process when we get to that. I'd like to formally call our meeting to order and ask for a roll call.
Thank you, Chair Williams and members of the board. City of Flagstaff, Lori Matthews.
Here,
Coconino County, Geronimo Vasquez.
Present.
City of Flagstaff, Miranda Sweet. Here. NAU, Josh Mayer.
Here.
And CCC, Tony Williams.
Here.
We do have our attorney, Chris Beecher, also on the line.
Good morning, everybody.
Good morning.
morning.
And we have members of staff here in the Vera room at Mountain Lion and on Zoom. Thank you.
Great.
Oh, I'm sorry, we do have another guest, Rick Tatter joined from the City of Flagstaff. Rick, are you with us?
Good morning, everyone. Yes.
Good morning.
Great. Thank you, Rhonda, and welcome everybody. Next on our agenda is the safety minute. Sam Short, the floor is yours.
Thank you, Mr. Chair and members of the board. Our first safety minute for August is regarding school zone safety. So each year, more than 56 million children travel from their homes to attend school by walking, biking, and taking the bus. Drivers must take precautions to account for increased traffic and dangers as children return to school. Roads will become congested during peak times, and school zones have become one of the leading causes of injuries and death for school-age children. It is essential for drivers to practice safe driving habits when traveling near school zones to ensure children's safety. Here are some safe habits you can employ to keep children safer. Be on the lookout for school zones, especially if you are unfamiliar with the area. There are many types of pavement markings, school zone signs, and crosswalk barricades that should alert you to slow down and pay special attention to your surroundings. Expect more traffic in school zones. Drivers often make mistakes when they are caught in traffic, stressed, or running late. If you plan to travel to, near, or through a school zone, allow for additional time so you can slow down and get through the school zone safely. Reduce driving speeds in school zones. Since school zones are areas that are specially designed for student safety, drivers need to reduce their speed whenever they enter a school zone. Damages and injury resulting from an accident are greatly reduced when the vehicles are traveling at lower speeds. Be on the lookout for pedestrians and pedestrian crossings. Reduce your speed so you can stop quickly if needed. It is an excellent practice to anticipate pedestrians stepping onto the roadway at any time from anywhere. Stop for school buses. It is illegal and very unsafe to pass a school bus that is stopped and has its stop sign extended. The extended stop sign means that children are either getting off or on the bus. These children could be going to or coming from any direction. Please be sure to pay attention as you drive your school. yield the right of way to pedestrians and school buses. This should be done for any public school, whether it be public or private, no matter the level. If you stay alert and focused, you can keep everyone around you safe this school year. Thank you and welcome to the August board meeting.
Sam, thank you for that timely safety minute. Every time we have these each month, there's always a method to your madness with what you're trying to cover. So I really do appreciate it.
Thanks, Mr. Chair.
Now we're at the point in our agenda for a call to the public. The public is invited to speak on any item or any area of concern that is the jurisdiction of the Mountain Line Board. Comments relating to items on the agenda will be taken at the time the item is discussed. The board's prohibited by open meeting laws from discussing, considering, or acting on items raised during the call to the public, but may direct the staff to place an item on a future agenda. And individuals are limited to a 3-minute presentation and a spokesperson for 10 or more people present at today's meeting may be given up to 6 minutes to speak. And the board will not recognize anonymous comments. So at this time, Rhonda, do we have anyone present for public comment?
We don't have anyone present in the room. We had one person request the Zoom link, but he has not joined. So I can briefly let you know what I have. I had 2 written comments also submitted, and they are all related to Free Mountain Line. The first one was August 8th, 2023, an email from Angela Cordova 86004. The other was Erin Thomas, Tuesday, August 1st, area code 86004. And Jason Kordowski submitted a letter that he wanted to read today via Zoom, but he has not joined at this point. Again, all are related to Free Mountain Line, and the written comments will be attached to the minutes. Thank you.
Thank you, Rhonda. Moving on in our agenda this morning, milestones and anniversaries. Heather.
Good morning from Wichita, Kansas. Thanks for accommodating me on Zoom. We have 2 anniversaries to share, and I see Mark in the room. Mark, do you want to wave for those online so we can see you? Mark Gattenberger joined our organization over 15 years ago and is a key member of our fleet team. He currently serves as fleet supervisor. So he is essential to the scheduling of services to our vehicles and ensuring that we have all of the parts available to perform those services. And Mark has had a challenging couple of years with part supply challenges, delays, and unavailability. And we are appreciative of the creative nature in which he has made sure that we have what we need to provide those essential services to our vehicles. So congratulations, Mark, on your 15 years, and thank you so much for all that you do for our Mountain Line and our vehicles. The second anniversary is a milestone anniversary that I wanted to recognize today is for Jerry Holsworth. Is Jerry in the room?
No.
Yes.
Okay, Jerry is a transit bus operator with Mountain Line, and he has 5 years of service with us. Jerry is reliable and dependable for our partners, for our riders, as well as his peers in our transit programs. And we're very grateful for everything that Jerry does on a daily basis to perform his job safely and dependably. And so congratulations to Jerry on his 5 years with Mountain Line Transit.
Yay.
And those are our 2 milestones today, Chairman Williams.
Great. Thank you, Heather. And congratulations, Mark and Jerry. Moving on in our agenda this morning, we're actually at our first action item of the day, approval of the minutes. Do I have a motion to approve minutes for June 21st, 2023?
I move to approve the minutes dated June 21st, 2023.
I'll second.
Any discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
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 Any opposed? Passes unanimously. Thank you very much. Moving on to discussion and other action items for today. Item number 7 on our agenda is the bus rapid transit or BRT project update. And I believe Heather will be leading us in this today. Heather.
So good morning again. Today I'm here to talk a little bit about Mountain Line's Bus Rapid Transit or BRT project. Just to give you some background, a BRT project is similar to what we have on Route 10 that runs through campus. So there's so many elements of a transit route that are required for it to be identified as bus rapid transit. Next slide. Mountain Line applied for a BRT project several years ago. Sorry, Rhonda, next slide. We applied for our project several years ago. This is a special segment of Federal Transit Administration funding that can be used. Sorry, on my end, there's a delay in the slides, Rhonda. Sorry about that. The map that was on the previous slide shows what we had previously applied for as a BRT line, and you can see the northernmost point goes from the medical center on between Beaver and San Francisco, and then swings all the way down to the southernmost place, going as far as the airport. So we applied for this project in 2000 and I think 13. Rhonda, can you put the timeline slide?
Yes.
So the timeline for the project is that we prioritized the BRT in the 2013 5-year transit plan. We applied for funding and received our first award to plan the BRT system in 2015. And then the project was included in the Capital Improvement Grant Program, which is a competitive set aside for these types of projects. That was done also again in 2015. And we've stayed in what they call the CIG pipeline since 2015. In 2016, we were awarded additional funding to really start to develop the project plan. That included the environmental review necessary and the preliminary engineering. Parallel to our efforts on that side of things with our project and our grant funding, ADOT initiated a Milton Road Corridor Master Plan to look at the uses of Milton Road. And in 2018, Mountain Line developed the project development plan. The next slide is going to cover some of the challenges that this project has continued to provide. In 2018, the funding that we needed in local match to operate the BRT system was not approved by the voters. That was the ballot initiative that was defeated. In 2020, ADOT had a Milton Road Corridor Master Plan that identified a no-build alternative, and that removed several of the BRT elements that were necessary for pedestrians and bikes and transit to really be considered a BRT project. In 2021, the Federal Transit Administration allowed us to put our project on hold or pause while we continue to work through those conversations with ADOT about how we can get back to those elements needed for our BRT project. And then in 2022, Northern Arizona Healthcare proposed to relocate the hospital. And if you think about that map we saw a couple slides ago, that was the anchor point on the northernmost part of this BRT line and was a critical element to the project as submitted for funding to the Federal Transit Administration. Next slide. As a result of this timeline, this is the most recent transit plan that was adopted by Mountain Line's Board of Directors. This is a Flagstaff in motion. And I just want to point out there's a lot of priorities on this map. What was not included in these priorities was the BRT project. So we lack the funding necessary to operate the system. And then our most recent transit plan did not prioritize that BRT project or program. And you add to that the challenges that we've had with our ADOT partnership on making BRT type improvements to that segment of the road. And ultimately, this resulted in a decision to ask FTA to allow us to withdraw our application and remain in good standing with the Federal Transit Administration. Next slide, Rhonda. And so it's really the update that I wanted to provide. There's additional details in the staff report, but ultimately we believe that it was the right thing to do to be transparent with the Federal Transit Administration and withdraw our project from the CIG pipeline so they could focus their funding and efforts around projects that were moving forward in a timely manner, while our project needs to go kind of back to the drawing board. We need to make sure that the routing that we identified is relevant and that the BRT system is still appropriate. And with that, Mr. Chairman, I'd be happy to answer any questions.
Great. Thank you for that update, Heather. Do we have any comments or questions from the board? Hearing none, Heather, I would just like to compliment the justification and the need to be transparent. I think that's a good business practice. And I'm glad that's the direction that you and the staff have taken in this approach. Any other comments before the board from the board before we move on to the next item? All right, hearing none, I guess we'll move on to item number 8 in our agenda today. And that is the Downtown Connection Center or DCC update. I believe Ann Deneau is going to lead us in this conversation today.
Sure. Thank you, Chair Williams, members of the board, Ann Deneau, Capital Development Manager. This is just really an update to the board and an opportunity later to show you some samples. So a few board members here will get to see them up close, but we will try to show you those on the cameras as well. So a little bit of our status on design. We have completed 100% of the design. It's actually sitting with the city for our final building permit. For phase 1 for the building. Phase 2 is kind of on temporary, a little bit on hold because we're waiting to find out information from the Rio de Flag project. And we are approaching phase 2 in 2 stages. We're calling a phase 2A, sort of an interim EV operating condition that we would do some temporary paving and have a charger installed that would get us through while they're building the Rio de Flag on the city parcel. And then the phase 2B, we would only take that to about 50% design because we're so many years out from potentially building the ultimate build out of phase 2 for the ops hub and the civic space that it didn't make sense to carry it all the way through final design when there's probably potential for changes. So. And the other update on design is we have reinitiated with ADOT our TIA updated for the light. It would a light at Milton Phoenix that would allow buses, a transit only signal that would allow buses to make lefts to go southbound on Milton and then more easily make a right turn out, so those buses that need to go north. So we have initiated that process in coordination with the Downtown Mile. Because they have a TIA for that bridge and the widening of Milton there. So we're working really closely with them. A little bit of a construction update if you haven't been by the area. The building is definitely underway of construction. We are doing a foundation over excavation of the footings. We brought in material. We got to use some of that Beulah material and help save some costs there, which was great. They're doing some utility work. And the most recent update is we've been able to get our operations trailer. It's in the process of being installed right now that'll help our operators. And here's a couple of pictures. This is actually a camera that Lovin mounted, and so they're gonna eventually have one of those real-time videos that they'll link the whole project together, but they are going to town. Just a lot of, a lot of underground work. And it's gonna, once they get their trailer in, it's gonna become much more of a vertical type construction and, a little more obvious about what's happening on site. And with that, I'd like to share some building samples, and thank you, John, for being able to help. I'll start with the biggest one. This one is the exterior stone that will be on the building face that you're seeing on the main parts of the building. So it is a real stone, and that really, I think, captured sort of that those original renderings with that kind of warm, modern yet mountain kind of vernacular that I think really was well received. So this is going to be a great addition. So and the second item, these guys. Well, you know what, John, if you don't mind, since might as well do the heavy ones first. This is actually this CMU unit. It's actually kind of a honed, has some nice granular, natural, kind of looks like granite. But this is actually a structure that you're going to see on the outside, on the west side of the building from Milton, kind of where that staircase is. This is going to be exposed. This will also be exposed in the lobby kind of area as well. So it's part of the structure, but it's also has kind of a nice natural quality. And the other items aren't super that exciting, I suppose, but yeah, this is that split place block that'll be kind of on as you go up on those ADA access ramps, and where we have the landscape retaining walls, that the city uses that split face, and it's kind of just a neutral gray with some white. And then we have this is just the smooth, you'll see that in the lower parts of the building, kind of where the stem wall is exposed. So it's kind of a blend into the ground, basically. It's pretty simple there. And then what's called we call it cross-laminated timber, which is essentially an engineered timber product. But this is actually going to have a warm stain, so it's going to bring more of that warmth into it. But what you see as columns on the exterior, all of that is the wood. And it's actually a unique, it's the part of the structure of the building. We're going to see that on the inside of the building. You're going to see it up on the ceilings. And it's actually, I think maybe the 9th, anyway, less than 10 buildings in Arizona have been built using CLT because it's fully exposed. And it's actually one of those lower carbon neutral type of products to help with net zero in the big picture. So it's a Doug fir, and then it'll have like a stain on it. So it should, wear really well. We've reviewed a lot with maintenance, working with Jeremiah and his team and with the HDR to really make sure the building is going to have materials that are maintainable, that'll last, and be kind of a classic civic public building. So, there's that. This is the roof. This one actually we are looking to modify a little bit of the color. We thought it was a little bit on the light, cooler side. So HDR is looking at that to maybe just make this a little bit darker. And of course the roof, we should have solar eventually on the roof as well. The exterior also has horizontal metal paneling. So this is kind of going to be on that west side by Milton. So you'll have that stone for the vertical stairs. This piece on the west side, a little bit on the eave that you might see from the east side that peeks over that flat roof section. On the north side of the building by the BNSF, it's more of a kind of like a tan, a little bit lighter, so it's not so dark on the north side. And then this looks like Cortan, but it's not. It has the advantages of not rusting and leaving stains, but this is what they're going to make the signage for the Mountain Line sign that's on the railing on the sides. So, and then a little bit of that black window trim. So, okay. Just wanted to share that. Oh, one more, or two more, I guess. So on the upper second floor, there will be a little bit of an outdoor deck that's right off the break room that everyone and operators will be encouraged to go upstairs and have lunch outside. But it'll have kind of a flooring exterior paver type material. So
And that's the flooring.
that's the flooring, yeah. They're actually gonna be bringing in interior samples that they'll share when they kind of get a little bit closer. Kind of the ceiling, acoustical baffles have some color in them. There's, a couple, like the front counter, they're gonna do kind of a nice, more of a quartz, but on the, from the break rooms, they do more of like the silestone or something less expensive. So, yeah. And then the last piece is a little bit of the two railing. We do have an area on the front where the railings come in, where there's too much of a drop. So they have, like a safety, kind of a screen edge to help, prevent people from slipping. So this would be, it's a basic powder coated material with the right safety level for not letting hands, get caught. And then this is off on the north side. We're hoping to just do chain link on the very north against BNSF to help save some budget. And then the city doesn't allow chain link viewable to the public, which makes sense. So a little bit of that tie, they'll tie and wrap the building on that north side to keep secure. So then we have less of a woven. And then I think that pretty much did it. So.
Great.
So we're really excited to be, and the goal is to get our GMP signed off or final for the GMP of the building materials by the end of August. And then obviously start ordering all these pieces, so.
What's the timeline on the building part?
So the building right now is tracking to be complete March 1st of 2025. We did have a little bit of a slip in that. We originally thought we could be in by the end of December 2024. And just given with where some of the permitting process and just some of the other processes, it's kind of gotten a couple months behind on that. But we believe, part of it is to our electrical system, the package, it's called an SES. It's the big longest lead item on the entire project. That also, by the time they order that, that's really driving a lot of the schedule as well. So, and that's a nationwide issue, trying to get electrical equipment right now. So that's been kind of the biggest challenges for material acquisition. So, but yeah, so we get this under contract by the end of the month and they, get the building permit, which we're really close on. And they'll just keep moving. And then hopefully everything is, standard construction over the next year and a half. And I just wanted to provide a little update or more detail on how we're approaching, we call it the phase 2A interim condition. We did have a great meeting with the Army Corps and City this week to get an update on their project. And they are going to really try to work with us they would consider moving their phase line for the Rio instead of building it that sweep from the south through city property. And then do the separate one, picking up at the Y and running north towards BNSF and under towards City Hall in that area. Instead of two, they would try to build all of this section on city property at once. And they're open to that and having us look at how we can manage operations and keep transit service going. And they're willing to kind of squeeze their construction staging area. So, we're going to really dive in and look at how we can fit our operations in this one little corner. And there's, a lot of nuance with that. So we're going to work on that, which would be fantastic if that would work out, because if they get in and they anticipate awarding their contract to their CMAR for the Rio in March of next year, and then they'll really be able to nail their schedule down. But we need to have our package, we need to be ready to go. So when they put a shovel in the ground for the Rio, we're all set up and ready to operate, and so that effort is what we call 2A. We have to build a package, we have to go through city planning reviews and all that, and move utilities, install our charger that we want to get down there to charge buses. So there's a lot of moving parts. So that's what we're going to be calling our 2A package that we're going to be working on really over the next year to get that done. So.
I'm glad the Army Corps is willing to work with you. It's
Yes.
good news.
Yeah, and it was, really just trying to get a meet time with them that, and so we now have the next meeting time, so we have a good check-in, so it'll be, we'll be, I think, working really closely with them. Well, with that completes my update. I don't know if the board, anyone online has questions or.
And this was an excellent update. I really do appreciate like how far we've come. And just a few months ago, we were standing out in that parking lot with a whole bunch of other people there talking about this project kicking off and doing that groundbreaking ceremony. And to see it come just as far as it has already is pretty remarkable. I think most impressive today is being able to actually see the samples of the pieces that'll be going into the construction of the building. Number of years ago, I was involved with building 2 student housing facilities, both 5 stories. And I was amazed at how fast a project like that actually goes. Even though the ETA date was March 1st, 2025, that may, for the rest of us on the board, make us feel like that's going to be a long time from now, but it actually goes pretty darn fast. And I'm excited to see as things progress, also getting future updates. Are there any other comments from the board or direction that the board is wanting to for Ann and staff to consider moving forward?
I'd like to say something. Thank you. Yeah, it's really exciting to see where the project has been. I was a little surprised that it got pushed back a little bit, but as Tony said, it'll go quicker than it seems, and we want to get it right. And the materials look like they're really groundbreaking materials, and that's exciting to be part of that as we decrease our carbon footprint. And so I just really appreciate the presentation, and I'm excited to see where it goes. Thank you.
Any others wanting to make comment?
I just want to say thank you and to keep updating us. I'm very interested in this project and would like to know.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
For sure.
Thank you for that.
It's exciting.
Great. Moving on to our next item in the agenda, I believe Ann is also going to lead us in item number 9, which is the commercial driver's license or CDL training and testing facility update. Ann, the floor is yours.
Thank you, Chair Williams. This also is an update to show kind of the progress and timeline that we're on. The progress since we did the groundbreaking in April, we have, we received our NEPA update and we were able to then start fully, demoing and working on the CDL course. We removed the trees, we brought in all that Beulah material, got all that. That's our only benefit of having no monsoons, honestly, is we got lucky because that was a lot of risk, with potential for monsoons with all that material coming in. So that really went well. They've run into some, minor things in the field to reconcile. We're working through those on a design standpoint, just some utilities and things that, were unanticipated. So working through those, but the big news is we are tracking to pour the large concrete CDL slabs starting at 2 a.m. Thursday / Friday morning. With all the, they come in and do it 3 sections. They'll do the 1 section Friday and then 2 different sections next week. So the majority, everything should be poured really by the end of the following week, if everything holds well with materials and weather. So, and then the road access, that is the piece that's on the NAU driveway, I call it, off of Pine Knoll that goes past their facility building. They, milled that pavement. So we had to replace that pavement to allow the, the usage of the buses and semis to use that road because it was in pretty poor condition. And so they're making some safety improvements for pedestrians. And so they've been, working on that, but they have identified a few, items that they need to work out with NAU. So their paving is probably going to be towards the end of August, but everything is going, well in terms of where NAU's perspective, they've got it protected and they have, they're working with their stakeholders on that, so. So just a few pictures, obviously a lot of just moving earth. And the area on the left, that's kind of where you're gonna be, when you drive in off the end of the driveway, that's gonna be the area that's asphalt, and then you turn off to the right is where the CDL course entrance is. And then the area on the right is, a stage of the grading as they were still bringing in the final materials. And that was probably about 3 weeks ago now. And then these pictures, actually I just took last week. They've actually started, you could see the grading, they've graded completely the pad, everything's all ready to go. And they started pouring the curb around the edge. It's a real, pretty large, thick section. We will be adding a couple of side pads for a kind of a seating area that's covered with a small little canopy, so when classes are out there, they can sit and watch and be out of, the sun and the weather. So that'll be kind of nice. And we will also have a Connex box that will be able to store some materials for NAU and Mountain Lion as well. And really, as far as once this is constructed, and we've had a great groundbreaking, and it is tracking to be done by mid-October as it stands right now. And definitely, as we get closer to working with Jackie and Heather on, hosting a groundbreaking, or a ribbon cutting. But part of the lease agreement with NAU, so Mountain Lion, with the federally funded, this is actually a facility owned by Mountain Lion and maintained by Mountain Lion. So Jeremiah and his facility staff. We will be splitting the costs of the maintenance with NAU. So we're going to be tracking those costs and anticipating budget every year. We're going to have a committee that's set up to kind of really track, the status. And so we're coordinating on budget in the future and just making sure everybody's aware of what the actual costs are so they can predict that in their budgets. We'll also be developing a scheduling and use of the course. So with our training team, who's getting to schedule and use the course. We're going to be developing sort of those SOPs, those standard operating procedures and protocols for that. And with that completes my report. And I don't know if the board has any questions.
I have a question. Will this training facility, are we just training future bus drivers, or will it be a course available to anyone wanting to acquire a CDL?
So we have, this is a FTA funded project. We have a shared use agreement with NAU. So NAU is considered a shared use partner. So Mountain Lions, of course, training our operators, obviously out there. NAU Transit and training, they have the ability to schedule the course. We also have what's called incidental use, which is other users that we have actually gotten approval for with FTA are Coconino Community College. They have a CDL program that trains Class A semi-truck drivers. They will have, be able to schedule use of the course, and there's going to be a fee structure. And then, we've developed a fee structure that they would, pay us on a quarterly or, a reasonable basis that works with their timeline. And the course has 2 carousels, so you have the ability to have a CCC group out there at the same time as an NAU or a Mountain Lion group to schedule, because they actually has 2 we call carousels that are going to be striped. This is more in the weeds, but the striping of the course is actually going to be held off until next year, until spring, because the ADOT is in the process of changing their striping layout. And so but in the interim, we're going to have kind of an interim layout that we want to get ADOT to sign off on, so they can not only train, but they can also test at that site. So, and that is, we've identified, I think it was the city and the county, if they just reach out to us and then schedule use of the course, and then there's a facility use fee, then as long as it doesn't conflict with a Mountain Line or an NAU need, then we're able to accommodate that, so. So yeah, it'll be, I think, a really well-used facility. We've actually, I think there's been a couple of other a different section of the county interested in using the course, so yeah.
Any other board members with comments for Ann? And again, thank you for this update. I really do appreciate it. And exciting times for Mountain Lion. A lot of big projects underway, and these updates today were really fun to hear about. Moving forward in our agenda this morning, number 10 on our agenda is the Transit Tax Initiative update. And I believe Jackie Lenners will be leading us in this conversation today. Jackie.
Thank you, Chair Williams and members of the board. This is another update, a non-voting item. So this is an update on our efforts related to a potential transit-related ballot initiative on the November 2024 election. So I just wanted to let you all know where we are, what we've been doing, what we are going to be doing. So as you know, I think we have convened a Citizens Advisory Committee made up of local representatives from nonprofits, business, schools, previous elected officials, healthcare, government, really good group, cross-section of people who have met twice. They've had 2 meetings. The first one, we basically went over Flagstaff in Motion, our 5-year plan, so they could see what our priorities are, what our current unfunded priorities are for transit. And then in the second meeting, they reviewed the budget scenario. So where are we from a funding standpoint? Where will we be? So they learned a lot about where the money comes from, where the money goes, and how much money there isn't currently for these items. So parallel to those meetings, we also issued a procurement to hire a polling/research firm, as well as a voter education company to handle voter education initiatives. As you know, Mountain Lion cannot advocate for any thing that might be on the ballot. We can educate voters about what that ballot initiative is. So we actually did a dual award with that procurement. We awarded the polling/research part to Global Local Visions, which is a Flagstaff-based company headed by Fred Solup and Nancy Wonders. A lot of you probably are very familiar with their work. Fred has previously conducted many surveys for Mountain Lion and other entities within this town. So there's a lot of great baseline data that we can use to compare. And Fred has been, for those of you that have seen his presentations, he's been alarmingly accurate, which is probably why he's so good at what he does. But when you go back and look at people, what the prediction was of success, our success or lack thereof generally runs very close to what his survey results show. So we're really happy about that. And then for the voter education, we hired a company out of Phoenix called Lumen Strategies. It's Lumen. They have done a lot of work around the state and have done some work in Flagstaff. Most recently, we're involved in the CCC initiative, the successful CCC initiative last May, I believe. Apologies if I got that date wrong. So these two companies are going to work together to kind of gauge voter sentiment and then develop the strategies for voter education. So where we are right now is really in that research phase. So Global Local Visions actually has the first survey out in the field right now. You may have received a phone call if you are a registered voter. So it's a phone survey of 400 likely voters. And it's really a higher level survey at this point. Fred Solup did warn that when you're a year plus out from an election, it's not data that's you really want to rely on. Obviously, we don't even know from a presidential standpoint who's going to be on the ballot. There's a lot of things that are going to fall into place. So we don't know what else is going to be on the ballot as far as asks for various things. So he did warn us. These are early days as far as this data goes. So this first survey, we're asking about kind of the general quality of life in Flagstaff. How do you feel about things and your impressions of Mountain Lion, whether you ride the bus or not. Asking about renewing the current transit tax at a higher rate to cover increased operating costs to maintain our current service. So that's one of the difficult messages in all of this. So just doing a little bit of history here, we renewed our current transit tax, 29.5 cents on a $100 purchase in 2016. It was successful in 2016. It did not go into effect until 2020, which means that it sunsets in 2030. Typically, we would go back out to voters in 2026 for that renewal of that standard 29.5 cent tax. But obviously, considering that we are looking at an increase, it really probably doesn't make great political sense to go ask for more money in 2024 and then in 2026. Oh, by the way, we need this renewed. You know, that obviously is very confusing for voters. So looking at kind of how we can combine all of this into one ask or multiple questions. But as we have presented before, we presented to the Citizen Advisory Committee to even keep doing what we're doing today over there, we reach a point in the future where we cannot keep doing what we're doing today at the 29.5 cent rate. So there is some messaging about we technically need more money to even just put out the same thing we're putting out today. So that's part of it. And then there's also gauging the sentiment for increasing the tax by various percentages to get increased service, to do various things to increase the service, to fund service improvements. We asked some questions around messaging. So, what resonates with you as a voter? Is it congestion? Is it climate change? Is it something, what are some things that would resonate with you? And then preferences on kind of one big question versus maybe some options. And we are still filling that out with the city. We don't know legally what we are able to do as far as multiple questions versus one question that has several parts to it. You're essentially would be voting yes to several different things. So figuring that out still and what we need to do with that. So those that survey is out right now. Those results will be presented to the Citizens Advisory Committee in late September. And the goal is that they're going to make a recommendation to the board on what to put on the ballot. So they actually have a meeting scheduled in October as well as a backup. Obviously, it's a pretty weighty conversation we'll be having, so we might need another one in October. But we're going to ask them to make a recommendation to you, the board, about what they think should go on the ballot. And then at your November meeting, we'll also present those survey results and hopefully present that recommendation from the CAC. So then ultimately the board would vote on whether or not they wanted to move forward with putting something on the ballot and formally make that request of Flagstaff City Council, who has the ultimate say in what is going on the ballot, on the November 2024 ballot, any ballot. So in conjunction with the work that Fred and Nancy are doing right now, as far as the research goes, Lumen Strategies is really just kind of getting a lot of the background information. They're in the gathering phase. So I've sent them, past election materials, past surveys, things that we've done for the last several years. And so they're really they're calling it asset building. So they're building their assets related to us to start making some recommendations on that voter education side of things. So that's where we are right now and what you can expect to hear from us. So you would, unless requested, you would hear for something different, would hear from us again in November with those survey results and the recommendation. There will obviously be more if the board does vote to ask Flagstaff City Council to put something on the ballot, there will be further survey work as we're getting closer to the election to see more in that messaging, what would need to be maybe honed or refined a little bit. So that is where we are, and I'm happy to answer any questions.
Board members, looks like Geronimo has his hand up. Geronimo, you have a question?
Yes, thank you. Where does the consideration of Mountain Line possibly going free fare fit into this potential tax initiative? Can you give an update there, please? Thank you.
Sure. If Heather is available, I'm going to defer to her on this one. If Heather is available to answer that.
I am. I'm here. So the consideration of going free fare is factored into all of the costs. So as we look at what are we asking the voters to provide, sorry, my words escape me. The amount that we are asking voters to consider as part of extending the existing tax does include an allowance for us to go fare free, as does the expansion for Flagstaff in Motion. So both of those, if the extension with the increase for existing service is approved by the voters, it does allow us to go fare free. I think, Jackie, I don't recall if we chose to include that in the survey messaging or not, so I apologize if I'm asking you to repeat something. But we did talk about evaluating that as part of the public's reception to the tax question is, does zero fare create support or not support the support for those initiatives?
And I apologize, I cannot remember off the top of my head if that made it in the final survey, so I can circle back on that one. I know it was discussed and I cannot recall if it made it in the final survey.
No, great. Thank you. I just want to make sure that we're having that conversation because, you know, with this is an opportunity if we do plan on going free fare and we don't want to miss it and later on think, dang, we should have put that on as part of the bond. So I just want to make sure that this is part of the conversation as we move forward. So and look for messaging. Thank you.
Thank you, Director Vasquez. And I wanted to add that I have I've been to 2 conferences in 2 weeks, and zero fare has been a big topic of conversation and how transit agencies have gone about getting it introduced. And I have lots of ideas because I've not forgotten that the board asked us to consider and implement as soon as possible. So if there are partnerships we can develop to go to zero fare before the tax question, we are going to continue pursuing that. So look forward to providing you with updates in the coming months on other ideas for going zero fare.
Great. Thank you. Appreciate it.
Thank you, Vice
Chair
Chair
Williams.
Vasquez. Appreciate your question. That's a really good question. As we enter into the next election cycle and how that fits into all that planning. Other questions from the board at this time?
Yes, Chair Williams, this is Councilmember Matthews. I just wanted to repeat something that Miranda and I shared with Heather when we went to our conference in Alabama. Heather, I apologize for not getting you that presentation, but one thing that was very impressive to us is a lot of transit agencies around the nation are using ridership little short videos to talk about how important the transit service is, because I would imagine that a large percentage of our voters may not be riding the mountain line, but it does help to hear, you know, people that depend on the bus service. And there was just, they had a whole system where you could just do a little video recording and then it was submitted and then they would roll that into social media. And so I'm sure that our consultants will, you know, probably know about that, but just from a personal experience, when we saw it, it really opened my eyes to how impactful it was.
Thank you so much. Absolutely. I think, you know, all of those strategies like that, hearing from real people who use the bus and why they use it for, I mean, I think it will surprise a lot of voters, the variety of people who use the bus and the reasons that they use it. I think it'll be really important as part of that overall strategy, voter education strategy.
Thank you, Director Matthews. Director Mayer, Director Sweet, either one of you have comments today to make today?
None for me.
None for me. Thank you.
Great. Thank you very much. Moving forward in our agenda today, I believe this moves us toward the progress reports. Heather, I think you have some items on the summary of current events that you want to address. Is that correct?
I do. I have a couple of things to share specifically in the current events, and I'm going to be briefer than I normally would. There's lots of really great stuff in the current events, so I encourage you to give it a good read and let us know if you have any questions. But want to express my thanks to the board members that could attend the visit with Senator Sinema at our office last week. It was a quick meeting. It was upstaged by a certain event up at the Grand Canyon, but we did all rush back. We did all rush back to and had a great conversation with the senator about the funding she's brought to transit, but also the funding that's been made available in our region. And so very grateful to our board members, Board Member Sweet or Director Sweet and Director Vasquez was there as well. Is that right?
Yes.
Thank you.
Yes, I was there.
And then, and then also Mayor Daggett was able to join us, as well as Council Member Aslan and County Board of Supervisor Horseman. So it was a really great event to welcome the senator to our building and to go through that. And I was in the building when her staff came through. We had our second electric bus, which was delivered about 2 weeks ago now. And we were actually wrapping the bus. And so they were able to grab imagery of that and really witness that wrapping that was taking place. So it was just such a great event. So thank you to everyone who participated. Next slide. I have a couple of visuals that I'd like to share with you on some of the items from the current events. These two images here are from stop additions we have made on Huntington. And these stops are triggered by the transitional housing that Flagstaff Shelter Services is putting in place. And so this is an eastbound and a westbound stop near their new facility. Both of these are considered temporary stops, and we will be working with the city on long-term improvements needed to be made here. There is some view shed issues because this is on a curve. And so we want to work closely with the city in ensuring that we create a safe crossing for passengers going both to the north and south side of this road. But very grateful for our team that jumped right on this and got those two stops up and open. Next slide. And we were contacted by our neighbors to the north in the Mount Eldon Villas about some fire-wise cleanup needed to our property that borders their fencing. That's what you can see here on the far left side of the image is the back side of our garage, and the right side of the image is their fencing. They contacted us about undergrowth and plants and et cetera on this property, and our team was able to quickly respond to that and clean up the area fairly quickly. I don't know how many bags of pine needles and plant life were removed, but I know it was several trailers worth. So very thankful to our facilities team who really took the comment and initiated that cleanup immediately. So wanted to share that with you. And I think I have one more visual to share with you. We received a call from an individual on Route 10. This is the stop at Peaks Senior Living. It's been a pad, and the request was for additional seating area. This route has 60-minute frequency, and so oftentimes riders may arrive with a long wait in front of them. And again, our facilities team was quick to respond to that request, and we have installed a bench to help those riders with a safe resting space. Next slide. We have a couple promotions to share. Dave Doss joined our team several years ago, I think in 2021. He has served in various roles and most recently was promoted to our operations manager in our Mountain Line and paratransit programs. And he has jumped all over our recruitment and retention concerns and is working very closely with HR and our training team to get staff trained and out there and hopefully get ahead of our staffing shortage problem that continues to plague us. Sheldon Yazzie joined us in a temporary position in 2020 to help out with some HR clerical work. He served in various roles since then, but most recently stepped in when we lost our HR staff members unexpectedly to fulfill those roles. And in looking at the work that he was performing, and after much consideration, he was redefined to HR generalist and really leads our recruitment efforts and our new employee onboarding process. And we're very grateful for the efforts he puts forth to bond with applicants right away so that we are not only seeing applications, but we're seeing them in our training room and graduating into our driver positions. And then the last few things I have to share with you, Rhonda, next slide, is our July and August anniversaries. So we had 4 anniversaries in the month of July. Well, John Mathis, who I think is in the room today, is celebrating, sorry, I can't see the screen. 17 years
17.
with Mountain Line. And John started out actually creating Mountain Line's IT division. So he joined us in 2006 when we first left Coconino County, and has been instrumental to everything that we do with technology, including the Zoom call that many of us on today. Jose Peralta joined us a year ago as a transit bus operator. Andy Brown is celebrating 11 years as transit bus operator. And Maria Cardenas is celebrating her first year as our paratransit operator. She will in future years likely be converted over into a full transit bus operator so she can operate on both sides of our fleet. We're very excited that all of these individuals are still with us and celebrating these anniversaries. And then I think there's a couple for August, Rhonda. Yes, we have quite a few in August. One of the things we've learned is that summer is a good transition month for us. Everybody leaves in June and everybody gets hired in August. So we have several drivers celebrating their first anniversary with us. Marco Garcia is celebrating his first year, as well as Mason Williams. I want to touch base on Mackenzie Catrone, who is celebrating her first year, but want to recognize that Mackenzie is a returning employee. So she did work for us before with several years, had left the agency and came back a year ago, and we're grateful that she did return to us. Andrea Petrucci is our document control specialist, celebrating her first year. She gets the joy of deciding the dates that documents are kept. It's a fun job, I am sure, but it keeps us out of legal hot water on record retention. Russell Beck is celebrating 6 years as an operations supervisor, and Greg Lyons, 12 years as a mechanic 3. Jeremiah McVicker, which some of you are familiar with as he's done some presentations, is celebrating 6 years in our maintenance manager role. He has served several roles at Mountain Line, but most currently is our maintenance manager. Donovan Walker is celebrating 3 years as a transit bus operator. And I will share with you, when Donovan first started with us, he was a temporary staffer, brought on in the middle of COVID to help wash buses. And so we're very grateful that he has expressed interest in growing and developing with the company and is now celebrating his 3rd year. And lastly, Wallace is celebrating his 2nd year as a transit bus operator. And he is a very positive portion of our bus operator workforce. So I'm glad to celebrate these anniversaries with you. And Chair Williams, with that concludes my current events report. But I'd be happy to touch on anything anyone has questions on.
Great, thank you, Heather. Is there any board members have any questions for Heather? Hearing none, I believe that then leads us to a need to move into executive session. Recognizing that the board will need to vote to convene a session, I would call for a motion to convene into executive session pursuant to Arizona Revised Statute as referenced in our agenda today.
I'll move into executive session.
Got a motion to move. Do I have a second?
I'll second.
I think Director Sweet beat Vice Chair Vasquez in that second.
Sorry.
No worries.
Is there any discussion about this? All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion passes to enter in executive session at this time.
Should I stand up here?
Yeah.
Just feels awkward for executive session. Can you stand?
Rhonda, do we have everybody back? I think you are muted.
Okay, we are back.
Great. Okay, thank you, everybody, today for our meeting. I believe we've gotten through our agenda. And we have exited our executive session. At this time, I'd like to recognize that our next scheduled meeting date and identity of agenda items is set for September, October working meeting. The board meeting will be on September 30th, 2023. It will be hybrid, in person and Zoom meeting based here in Flagstaff in the Mountain Lion Vera Room at 10 a.m. And the public is invited to attend. September agenda items may include, but not limited to, personnel policy manual updates, biennial performance reports, Mountain Lion annual reports, grant status update, maintenance facility design kickoff and project plan, and Flagstaff in motion with city adoption and the delegation of authority updates. September agenda will be available for review on Mountain Lion's website and at Mountain Lion's public posting places listed on the Mountain Lion website, and at least 24 hours prior to our meeting, and should be consulted for a list of items that will come before the board. Like to adjourn our meeting today. Do I have a motion to adjourn?
Mr. Chair, if we could just, excuse me, it's Chris Beecher, if we get the executive session, who motioned and who seconded for the record, please?
Motion was moved by Vice Chair Vasquez and seconded by Josh Mayer. And I did not write down the specific time when we adjourned. So it was within the
11:14, Mr. Chair.
11:14 a.m. Thank you, Chris. Rhonda, were you able to capture that in our minutes?
I actually would like to verify, was it Director Mayer that made the motion to convene the executive session? Because there was a little bit of a, exit of others from the room and trying to transition there. Is that correct?
Director Mayer, were you the one that moved to go into executive session? I think you were.
You left.
Oh, I think he was, because.
And
then I
Director
think,
Sweet seconded it.
Yeah.
Right, and Vice Chair Vasquez was trying to.
Yes.
But,
Yeah.
okay, so that would make sense, so, thank you.
Great. Thank you, Chris, for reminding us about that. Appreciate it. With that said, recognizing we'll have another gathering of our board in September, I would move to adjourn for today's meeting. Do I have a second?
Second.
All those in favor of adjourning today? Aye.
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 Any opposed? Motion passes. Thank you all for a great speedy meeting. We got done early today, which is really rare. Look forward to seeing you all next month.
Thanks, everyone.
Thank you. Have a great day.